Hi guys, this is the Boo of Lou here with another battle replay. I share these just because it's hard to find people to play against online. And that appears to be showing in the average skill of the opponents. So today, I'm going to try to point out some of the glaring mistakes that we're making over and over again. You can see I've got my original army set up as always. I never had to change it because nobody ever wins. But what we've got going on here, the opponent is bringing all militia cavalry, which I think is kind of a gamble. If you're going to bring that much cavalry, you might as well make it as good as you can. But there's uses for that. He's using decent infantry. However, I see a lot of opponents do this, and he has 6 units of archers, which that implies a couple things. That implies that you can defend your 6 units of archers, which if you see like one of those all cavalry units, if somebody brings 12 cavalry and they're decent cavalry, then your militia isn't really going to do much. And then if they just put them around in a circle, then how are your 6 infantry possibly going to defend these 6 archers? It just doesn't. You'll have a hard time facing those types of armies. But additionally, you've got to be able to use your archers effectively. That's way more important than having a lot of archers. And this is basically assuming, I feel like by not moving and just having these guys all bunched up, you're assuming that the opponent is going to march up some kind of wall of infantry, we assume, and that you're going to have more archers than they do. Which assumes a couple things. They either have more infantry than you or cavalry, but you brought a decent amount of cavalry, so your assumption is that you'll be able to hold them off and maybe even win. Maybe you'll have forces. But those guys will protect your archers, and then your archers will be able to shoot, essentially, more guys as they're charging in than they will be able to shoot your guys as you charge in, and then during the fight you'll be shooting their guys more than they'll be shooting you, and then therefore you'll end up winning the engagement. And that's called a battle of attrition. That's called a battle of attrition, and that's just that's honestly the last resort strategy you should be using. That's if you have to, you should get into that engagement, or that type of engagement if you need to. Or at best you should be thinking in this area, I'm going to try to do that over here, and just, win the battle of attrition here with a small portion of men, and then do something tactical with the rest, versus just trying to assuming that your opponent is going to use that strategy, and then because they could have better archers, and you'll see that in battle after battle with 2 archers, I'm able to rout and kill and shoot down all 6 of their archers every time, because they don't know, let's see what they do. What mistakes do they make? With the cavalry, they make some really big mistakes that I see players make over and over again. First, the cavalry is too close to your main line. These horses are. But simultaneously, when they march the cavalry out, they don't bring anyone with them. They just a lone assault. They just say, okay, cavalry, go. And you'll see what it results in every time is the battle ends up moving. Wherever you put your cavalry, if you charge your cavalry over here, you'll end up having to reinforce it. So, and then the battle will kind of shift over in that direction. So you kind of should do that preemptively instead of realizing it way too late. You see, encounter with my cavalry, I'm sending spears, but then I'm also sending some bows, and I've got a potential second spear backup if I really need it. And then I'm also sending a potential some axes if something weird happens with these guys are going to be back here, so that they're not just way over here in the middle of nowhere. And they fall for it. So this is not what you want to do. Oh, look at my little officer. He's so weak. Yeah. Let's see how it goes. This is a pretty basic tactic. I took a little bit of damage, but you'll see he takes a lot more. Now his spears are coming over. It's too late. And then he makes it a little bit worse. He chases me, which moves it even more, you'll end up seeing. Now his spears have to come all the way over here. I went ahead and threw these guys into these archers because the archers were in front of his units just to make him react and cause chaos over here while I hit his archers from behind. They were also free, so at this point I could have just retreated all my units and held a pretty significant advantage, especially since I sent him running before the spears could show up, and I'll actually do the same with this officer. He ended up moving too far. These horses, look at how glorious this ends up being. These spearmen are just champions. Like taking all 5 units of cavalry. If you're going to take 5 units of cavalry, split them up. And definitely don't charge all of them into a spear line while your last unit gets ambushed by my remaining cavalry. That's just terrible. You'll see him do things like that with his horses over and over. I went ahead and attacked his infantry, which surprisingly aren't doing that great. And these guys have a flank that's going to come in, and you'll see the flank has archer support, so he's shooting him from behind with archers while they're going to be in that engagement. This section has a flank coming in as well, so here in a second this is probably going to crumble as well. Yeah, once you've got G running into archers, you're in a bad position. Yeah, they're just crumbling everywhere